Hey everyone, Andre here from Andre the Alpha, and today we're diving into something that honestly caught me off guard with how much I ended up loving it. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake. Now I'll be honest with you from the start, I went into this expecting a nice nostalgic trip, maybe some pretty visuals slapped on into a 40-year-old games, and what I call a respectful but ultimately skippable package for anyone who isn't a die-hard Dragon Quest fan. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Square Enix didn't just remake these games, they transformed them into something that feels both timeless and completely modern, and after spending the last couple of weeks completely absorbed in both adventures, I need to talk about why this collection deserves way more attention. See, here's the thing about most remakes. Most of the times developers play it safe. They update the graphics, maybe smooth some rough around the edges, and call it a day. But what Square Enix did here different. They took two games that honestly showed their age pretty badly and rebuilt them in ways that feel essential again, not just playable, but genuinely essential. Let me paint a picture of you with my first few hours of Dragon Quest 1. I booted up the game and immediately the HD-2D art style hit differently than it did in the Dragon Quest 3 remake last year. There's something about seeing Alfgard rendered in this gorgeous diorama style with the lightning streaming throughout the castle windows, the water that actually reflects and shimmers. The presentation alone had me stopping just to look around, and I'm someone who just blazes through games without really stopping to smell the roses, to be honest with you. But then something else happened that I wasn't expecting. The game moved methodically in ways that the original just couldn't, and that's where the game really starts to shine. Dragon Quest 1 is still a solo adventure. You're just one hero against the world, no backups, you and whatever spells and abilities you can scrap together. On paper, that sounds limiting, especially in 2025 when we're used to complex party dynamics and synergies. But Square Enix did something super brilliant here. They backported abilities and spells from later Dragon Quest games, giving your hero a tool to make a solo play not just viable, but actually strategic and engaging. I found myself having to think about encounters in ways that I never did in the original. Do I use my MP now for offense, or do I save it for healing later? Should I invest in defensive abilities or go all in on damage? These weren't questions that the original game really asked because your options were so limited back then. Now, every level up feels meaningful because you're getting new tools that fundamentally change how you approach combat. And speaking of combat, let's just address the elephant in the room now. Random encounters, yes, they're still there, and yes, the encounter rate still feels high at times, but here's the thing. Battles move super fast now that it doesn't feel like a slog like it used to be. You can set the battle speed to ultra fast, and suddenly what used to be an encounter is over in 5 seconds. It's a small change that makes a massive difference in how the game flows. Story Edition is where things really interesting though. The original Dragon Quest 1 had what you generally call a minimalist plot. Heroes show up, hero beats the Dragon Lord, everyone's super happy, but this remake adds actual narrative meat to those bones. There's these new characters who show up throughout your journey, expanded dialogues that give context to your quest, and most importantly, connections to Dragon Quest 3 that actually makes this feel like a proper trilogy instead of just 3 loosely connected games. Princess Laura isn't just a damsel in distress anymore. She's got personality, agency, her own subplot that runs throughout the game. The Dragon Lords get actual development beyond "I'm evil, come fight me." Towns have stories and characters that you'll actually remember instead of just being pit stops to buy gear. But what really got me, the game respects your intelligence while also respecting your time. You can turn on objective markers if you want, but they're vague enough that you still need to explore to figure things out. Hidden treasures and secret areas are marked on your map if you want them to be, but mimics specific chest contents remain mysteries. It's this perfect balance of modern convenience and old school discovery that so many remakes failed to nail. After about 12 hours, I wrapped up Dragon Quest 1 feeling satisfied in a way that rarely do in modern games. It didn't just overstay its welcome, it told a story and left me immediately wanting to jump into Dragon 2. And that's where this collection goes from good to generally great. Dragon Quest 2 takes everything that the first game established and expands it in every direction. Suddenly you have a party, suddenly you have character dynamics, suddenly the worlds open up in this massive interconnected space that dwarfs the first game's map. The setup is simple enough. You're the Prince of Mendenhall, the descendant of the first game's hero, and the darkness is threatening the land again. You need to unite your cousins from the neighboring kingdoms to take down the evil priest Harrigan. Standard stuff on paper, but the execution is where it really shines. First off, they added a completely new party member. The Princess of Cannock joins her brother and cousins on the adventure, and she doesn't feel tacked on at all. She actually got her own personality, young, impulsive, and occasionally rogue in battle doing her own thing. It's actually mechanically represented too. Even when you set her to manual control, she sometimes just decides to chuck a boulder at enemies or cast a spell you didn't even know she had. Sometimes it backfires, sometimes it hits your own party. It's chaotic, unpredictable, and perfectly captures her character. The other party members got personality injections too. The Prince of Canak isn't just a balanced fighter anymore. He's got dialogue, reactions, and moments of humor and doubt. The Princess of Moonbrook starts the game watching her kingdom burn and carries that trauma and desire for revenge throughout the journey. These aren't just blocks in your party, they're actual characters with motivation and arcs. The world itself got a massive overhaul too. Remember how the original Dragon Quest II just had you sailing around looking for random sigils? Now those sigils actually do something. They provide passive buffs modifications that can completely change your strategy. The water sigil might boost your ice magic, while the star sigil could make your physical attacks hit multiple enemies. It adds a whole layer of customization that wasn't there before. And then there's the expanded content. We're not just talking about a few extra dungeons here, there's entirely new storylines, expanded towns with their own subplots, and connections between locations that makes the world feel more cohesive. The town of Sand isn't just where you grab the golden key anymore, it's got this whole storyline about a missing fisherman and mermaids that add probably an extra hour of content to that location. The underwater exploration completely changes the late game too. Your ship can now dive, open up the ocean floor with its own dungeons and treasures. It's not just a gimmick either. Some of the best equipment and most interesting story beats happen down there. But let's talk about difficulty, because Dragon Quest II has a reputation. The original was notorious for difficulty spikes, especially in the late game. The Cave Tyrone in particular was basically a meat grinder that destroyed countless players back in the day. And you know what? It's still tough, but tough in a way that feels a little bit more fair. The remake gives you so many tools to manage difficulty that it never feels insufferable. You can change the difficulty on the fly, you can turn on invisibility if you just want to see the story, you can grind more efficiently thanks to the increased experience and gold rewards. The game wants you to succeed while providing a challenge for those who want it. I played on normal difficulty, and yeah, there were some moments where I got my teeth kicked in, but instead of feeling frustrated, I felt motivated to come back stronger. Maybe I needed better gear. Maybe I just needed to admit my strategy just wasn't cutting it. Maybe I just needed to gain a few more levels. The game always gave me clear paths forward without holding my hand. The spacing deserves special mention too. Modern JRPGs just have this tendency to pad themselves out to hit this arbitrary hour count. Dragon Quest II doesn't do that. It has about 25 to 30 hours focused of purposeful content. Every dungeon has a reason to exist. Every town advances the story and provides meaningful side content. There's no filler, there's no padding, just pure adrenaline and pure adventure from the start to finish. Visually, both games are stunning in a specific HD-2D way, but it's not just about looking pretty. The art direction adds to the storytelling. You can see the corruption spreading across the land in Dragon Quest I through the darker color palettes and the withering landscapes. Dragon Quest II kingdoms each have distinct technical styles that can tell you about their culture before anyone says a word. Moonbrook's destroyed castle at the beginning hits differently when you see the individual flames consuming the buildings and the people fleeing in terror. The music deserves its own section too, because just wow, these orchestral arrangements, these classic compositions hit differently when paired with the upgraded visuals. The overworld theme of Dragon Quest I still gets stuck in my head, but now it's got this fullness and richness that the version could only hint at. Battle themes feel epic, town themes feel warm and welcoming, dungeons feel appropriately impressive. It's this work that enhances every moment. Voice acting is mostly great when it's there, though I do wish there was a bit more of it. Major story beats get full voice treatment, but regular are still text only. When you do get voice acting though, it sells that medieval fantasy setting perfectly. The old English dialect that Dragon Quest is known for could easily feel wonky, but the performers sell it completely. You believe these characters exist in this world. Let me talk about something that might seem minor but really isn't. The mini medals. These collectibles were added to both games even though they didn't exist until Dragon Quest V originally. You find them hidden in barrels, pots, and secret corners of the world. Them for exclusive gear that completely change your strategies, but more importantly, they encourage you to explore every corner of these worlds. Talk to every NPC, to check every suspicious corner. It transforms what could be mindless wandering into purposeful exploration. The quality of life features extend beyond what I've already mentioned too. I'll save after every battles means you never lose more than a few minutes of progress. Being able to speed up battles extend the movement speeds in the overworld. You can quick save anywhere. You can see enemy weaknesses after you discover them. The game tracks your progression in a journal. All these little touches add up to an experience that respects your time as a modern player. But what really makes this package special is how two games complement each other. Dragon Quest I is this focused, intimate adventure. It's you against a world, providing you're worthy of Eldrick legacy. Dragon Quest II expands that into a family affair, showing how its legacy has spread and evolved over generations. Playing them back to back, which the the game encourages with save data bonuses, creates this epic narrative arc that feels intentional even though these games were originally made years apart. There are some stumbles though, I need to be honest about that. Despite all of the improvements, inventory management is still restrictive, especially in Dragon Quest I where you're juggling everything yourself. Some dungeon layouts, particularly in the first game, are pretty basic and repetitive. The encounter rate, while manageable with the speed increases, can still feel excessive in certain areas. The Princess of Canuck's random actions in Dragon Quest II, while charming at first, can be annoying as hell when she returns in a crucial boss fight. It's personally driven game design which I appreciate, but it won't be for everyone. The game also doesn't their new systems very well. The signal system in particular is barely explained, and you might play through both games without realizing how much they can change your strategies. Same with some of the ability interactions and equipment bonuses. The game assumes you'll either figure it out or look it up online, which feels like a missed opportunity. And while the stories are much improved, they still feel simple by modern standards. If you're coming from something like Final Fantasy or Persona, don't expect that level of narrative complexity. These are straightforward good versus evil tales with some nice character moments sprinkled in. They're told well, but they're not going to blow your mind with any plot twists or deep themes. Price might be a sticking point for some people too. At $60 for two games that were originally released in 1980 feels a bit steep on paper, but considering you're getting 40 hours of refined, polished content, it starts to feel more reasonable. These aren't lazy ports, they're full of reimagining that requires serious development effort. So who is this for? Obviously Dragon Quest fans should already have it in their libraries. It's a definitive way to experience the beginning of the series, but I think the audience is broader than that. If you've been curious about Dragon Quest but found the earlier games a little too ancient, this is your entry point right here. If you love the recent HD-2D games like Octopath Travelers or Living Life, you need to play this. If you just want a JRPG experience and don't want to waste your time with modern well, this is it. There's something pure about these games that's hard to find in modern releases. They're not just trying to be movies, they're not trying to be the social experience, they're not trying to sell you their battle passes. They're just trying to be excellent video games, and they succeed at that completely. Playing these remakes remind me why I fell in love with JRPGs in the first place. The sense of adventure, the sense of satisfaction of growing stronger, the joy of exploration, the simple pleasure of saving the world or playing with a party of friends, or in Dragon Quest I case, by yourself against all odds. Square has set a new standard for how to remake classic games. They've shown that you can modernize without losing the soul of what made something special. They've proven that for a 40-year-old game design still be compelling with right updates. They create these definitive versions of two fundamental RPGs. Are these games perfect? Not at all. Are they perfect remakes? Pretty damn close. Dragon Quest I and Dragon Quest II remakes, it's an essential packaging for RPG fans, a masterclass in remake design, and proof that sometimes the oldest stories are still worth telling, just maybe with better battle speed or voice acting around this time. The games are now available on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC, and hey, if you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm streaming these classic RPGs and more over on Twitch at Andre the Alpha, where we're building a community of gamers who appreciate the classic and the cutting edge. Drop in and say hi, and let's talk about Dragon Quest Slimes. Are they still the best indie design in gaming history? Until next time, this is Andre reminding you to always check your pots and barrels. Until then, stay safe, stay smart, and stay alpha, everyone.